Okay, so the entire outside of the capsule, the little indented part is the hilus or hilum. That's where your blood supply comes in and the urine flow goes out. So coming in, you have the renal artery, which becomes the segmental artery, and then becomes the interlobar artery, and then this probably shows it better. And it goes over the arc as the arcuate artery, and then branches out to become the cortical radiate arteries. And you have the cortical radiate veins, the arcuate veins, interlobar vein, and there'll be a little segmental vein, and then the renal vein. And now we'll go back to the basics that I forgot. All right, so this entire area out here is the cortex, and this entire middle part is the medulla. These little pyramid-shaped structures are the renal pyramids, and the sections in between the pyramids are the renal columns. Right, so this little end point down at the bottom here is the renal papilla. Then each one of those dumps into a minor calyx, and all the minor calyces dump into the major calyx, and then the major calyces dump into the renal pelvis, which goes out through the ureter. All right. So all the little dots are the nephrons, or the glomeruli, the structural and functional unit of the kidney. This shows them a little bit closer, and this is even closer still. So we start with this. This entire thing is the nephron. These are the glomerular capillaries. This is the Bowman's capsule, made up of the simple squamous epithelium. All right, so from the blood supply we were talking about, you get the afferent arteriole that arrives, and then the efferent exits. So when the filtrate comes out, it goes into the Bowman's capsule. It goes down through the proximal convoluted tubule. I'll switch back over here. So here's the proximal convoluted tubule. It goes down the descending limb of the loop of Henle, and then up the ascending limb of the loop of Henle to the distal convoluted tubule, and then into the collecting duct, or the collecting tubule, all down through the medulla. This is all the cortex up here. So the nephrons further up in the cortex are the cortical nephrons, the most abundant of the nephrons, and the ones closer to the medulla are the juxtamedullary nephrons. So around the cortical nephrons, you have the paratubular capillaries, and for the juxtamedullary nephrons, you have the vasa recta, all this blood supply going down like that.
You know what? I just remembered.
All right, so we'll start from the outside on the male model here for reproductive. This is the scrotum, and you have the testes, or testicle. This little colonial wig looking thing here is the epididymis. Then you have the ductus deferens, or the vas deferens. It's all the way up over the bladder, down to here. So back here you have the seminal vesicle, and that runs together to make up the ejaculatory duct. So now we're just talking about the parts of the urethra. So the urinary bladder's here, and the prostate gland here. So this part of the urethra is called the prostatic urethra. And this part here is the urogenital diaphragm. So the little part that runs through here is called the membranous urethra. And then everything else is called the penile or spongy urethra. And this little gland back here is the bulbourethral gland, and it adds to the semen fluid. All right, so coming down through this part of the penis, we're going to have the corpus spongiosum. Corpus spongiosum, all this part here. And then the corpora cavernosum, the erectile portion of the penis. Stop it. Okay. All right, so coming down towards the end here, what we would call the head of the penis here, that is the glans penis. And then this opening here is the penile orifice. All right, so for the female reproductive, we start here with the ovary. The little finger-like projections that go to the ovary are called the femorrhae. And this is the fallopian tube in humans, also called the uterine tube. That leads down to the uterus. This is the uterus. And the different parts of the uterus would be the outside would be the perimetrium, the muscular part would be the myometrium, and then the inner layer would be the endometrium. And then the different parts of the uterus, this part that heaps up here is the fundus, the rest of it is the body, and it ends at the cervix. All right, from the cervix, we have the vagina. Then up in front here, we have the urinary bladder, that leads down to the urethra. And then out here, the outermost portion will be the labia majora, and the innermost would be the labia minora. And this part sticking down out here would be the clitoris. Right, for the ligaments that support the uterus, all of this whole sheet out here would be the broad ligament. This one that comes across here is the round ligament. And we're going to have the ovarian ligament. The suspensory ligament isn't shown on here.